Business Leadership South Africa's Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Bonang Mohale. Mr. Mohale, thank you very much for giving us your time. So, how are you interpreting Donald Trump's tweet as the business community in South Africa?
Very sad, tragic and regrettable, especially because the United States government, many of its businesses, churches and civic organizations have been an important ally in Africa's own reconstruction. And in turn, Africa has been an ally to the US. This has been very beneficial to African countries, but also strategically important to the US of A.
The governing party, the ANC, and of course, government itself, reassuring yesterday that trade relations between South Africa and the US remain solid, and that includes our participation in AGOA. Are you convinced of the same as a business community?
Oh yes, absolutely. I think, like I said, it's very sad that the US of A's president of the biggest nation in the world seems to be inflaming the conversation. That is fairly rational, because if you think about it, there's been 5 land expropriation without compensation against African people before 1913. In total, as we stand here, there have been 15. Today, when you look at the Mining Petroleum Resources Development Act, each time rights are given to mines, the surface rights of African people are lost and therefore expropriated without compensation. Not once did the US say a word, let alone lift a finger. Now that land has been central to the struggle of African people, and we are going about it in a responsible, orderly and constitutionally sound manner, he sees it fit to intervene in a manner that is absolutely racist.
Mr. Mohale, the governing party, clear, they are not deterred, and if anything, they're actually forging ahead with expropriation of land without compensation. And in the words of the cabinet spokesperson, who is the communications minister here, Nomvula Mokonyane, she says that this is going to be a game changer in as far as dealing decisively with the inequalities in the country. Do you agree with that sentiment as
yes,
the business
absolutely.
community?
In fact, we are happy that the ANC-led government has woken up from its slumber, because the Constitution has given them all the tools to be able to effect this. Section 25 doesn't talk about expropriation without compensation. It talks about land reform. It talks about restitution. It talks about land development. It talks about land redistribution. Under 3A, it is very clear that when conditions of fair and equitable have been fulfilled, compensation can be down to 0. Therefore, as business, we don't think we need anything more to be able to effect the restitution of land that was taken away from African people.
But what you are not saying clearly here right now is whether or not the business community is in agreement that the Constitution should indeed be amended so that it is explicitly clear, as the ANC asserts.
In fact, we don't think that it needs any amendment whatsoever.
So you don't agree with the amendment?
This has been a failure of execution, like in so many other failures of doing by this ANC-led government. For an example.
So you don't agree with the amendment of the Constitution?
It's not needed at all.
Why
tinker with something that is so sound, the best constitution in the world? What is missing in that constitution? Absolutely nothing.
Just as a final word, Mr. Mohale. Totally different subject now. Very disappointing this week. As a business person, what's your attitude towards Adam Katsavelo's racist rant this week? Because that's what it was, a racist rant. And what would be a fitting punishment for that?
You see, South Africa comes from a very dark, painful past, where the United Nations declared apartheid a crime against humanity. As business, we say before you can see humanity in another human being, you have to see it in yourself. Black people have been excluded, subjugated, marginalized. Women are still paid 73% of what we pay men. Most black people only have to be born on the wrong side of the bridge and they are destined to poverty. When white people, all they have to do is just to be born on the right side of the town, and they are going to have a life of abundance. Therefore, this rant deserves all the harshness that we can throw at this individual together with the kitchen sink.
What would be that harshest punishment?
So for us as business, we implore our members, starting from yesterday, to stop doing business with this individual and indeed with that family, so that we send a clear, unequivocal message that South Africa has no place, no tolerance for rabid racists that have no appreciation for a South Africa that we dream of, for the South Africa of Rolihlahla, Nelson Mandela's dream, for a South Africa where we stand under the same flag and we sing a common national anthem, to carve out a future that on a composite basis is substantially better than the one where we come from.
Mr. Mohale, thank you very much for your time.
Nkosi yami.
Much appreciated.